Hey, for those of you joining us, we're just going to take a minute or two as I'm watching the attendance numbers go up, and then we'll be opening this webinar. Hi, my name is Jillian Bartlett-Esquillant. I'm the Executive Director of the Network Coordinating Office for PIHCIN, which is the Primary and Integrated Healthcare Innovations Network. And I want to welcome you to our second final learning series in this session. I'm especially delighted that today will be a learning webinar that our host is, the host PIHCIN Network is Manitoba, but this particular session is going to be presented and coordinated by our Pan-Canadian Patient Advisory Council for the network. So I always learn something new from our patient partners, and I expect that today will be no exception. So I'm just going to open up the session, and then I'm going to read a statement of acknowledgement of traditional land, and then I will turn over the session to Kent Cadigan-Lofsgaard, who will be our moderator for today and who is our patient partner for the BC PIHCIN network. So I'm going to go ahead with that statement. You can see our patient partners who will all be participating today in the cameras. They will introduce themselves as they give their different presentations and talks, and Kent will explain to you how what's that going to look like today. So the statement of acknowledgement of traditional land. We acknowledge this, by the way, was developed by the Canadian College of Family Physicians Indigenous Health Working Group, and they graciously have provided it to us. We acknowledge that the lands on which we are hosting this meeting include the traditional territories of many nations. We recognize that the many injustices experienced by the Indigenous peoples of what we now call Canada continue to affect their health and well-being. We respect that Indigenous people have rich cultural and traditional practices that have been known to improve health outcomes. I invite all attendees to reflect on the territories you're calling in from as we commit ourselves to gaining knowledge, forging new culturally safe relationships, and contributing to reconciliation. I would like to add that I think this is particularly important in light of some of the tragic news that we've seen in Canada recently related to the residential schools and the atrocities that they represent. So with that, I am going to mute myself and turn this over to Kent. Thank you everyone for attending, and I look forward to an excellent session.
Thanks so much, Jill. It is my pleasure and honor to have been asked to moderate this session today. For those of you who don't already know me, I am still Kent Lofsgaard, coming to you today from the shores of Jericho Beach in Vancouver, BC, where we are having something of a heat wave the last few days, already up to 20 degrees here. When the weather forecasters get out their Hawaiian shirts, that's when you know the weather is getting warmer. But our purpose here today is partially to connect and project our best hopes for the future of the PIHCIN network, but also to reflect on some of our best achievements over the past about 5 years. I have had the distinct experience of having been part of this network for most of that time, and to get our collective juices flowing today, we have asked select of our members to consider key questions on the topic of primary care priorities. And beginning with question 1, we will have Lynn, Roger, and Karina, in an order of their choosing, describe from their points of view what meaningful engagement looks like to them.
Okay, my name is Lynn Mansell, and good morning from sunny Edmonton. My journey as a patient partner started with my career in Alberta's health system in seniors health, mostly in management, planning, and quality improvement. And before I was retired, I was before I retired, I was involved in establishing the strategic clinical networks. And that was when I became convinced that engaging patients and families as equals in designing and improving care and services was essential and the right thing to do. This was reinforced during my experience as a caregiver to my mother as her dementia and other chronic conditions progressed. Often I felt on the sidelines and not very well informed. After I retired, thanks to the Alberta Primary and Integrated Healthcare Network, I had the opportunity to become a patient partner and also to get involved in setting up the Pan-Canadian Patient Council. I'm currently a patient partner in 2 CIHR-funded patient-oriented research projects. So I've seen patient engagement in action, and I've learned some of the best things that can be done. And I just thought I'd provide a few highlights from those 2 projects. As a co-PI on the Diabetes Community Partnership Program project, led by Dr. Jenny Plow from the Aging Community and Health Research Unit at McMaster University, my engagement was enhanced because I was able to choose the pieces I was most interested in, including developing a list of patient conditions that would be important for the data analysis and reviewing the results, developing some key messages in plain language for patients and public, critiquing infographics, and reviewing draft publications. And at all times, the researchers accepted me as a member of the team and were always respectful and interested in what I had to say. And we also had a very thorough orientation. In the Continuum of Care project led by Dr. Malcolm Dupé of the University of Manitoba, patient advisors were involved as a group, along with groups of policymakers and researchers, in defining what is important to residents and families involved with long-term care and supportive living arrangements so that the differences between Manitoba and Alberta systems could be determined and learned from. We were involved in creating a Delphi process and recruited patients to participate. And again, infographics are now being co-designed to help tell the story of the project. Engagement, I think, is always better when both patient partners and other groups learn something new in the process. In addition to matching patient partner interests to the tasks in the project, one of the most important parts of patient engagement, in my opinion, is communication. So even if there's delays or political problems or changes in leadership or whatever it may be, it's essential to find ways to continue to let us know about them. The small achievements and the many challenges in conducting research in the real world, and especially in the past year or 2. For the future, another potential improvement, I think, would be more consistent education in patient engagement itself, what it means and how we can all do our part. And that would include all members of the team together, ideally in person. And I believe this will build stronger teams based on relationships and trust. So later I can answer any questions you might have. So I'll turn it over to Roger.
Oh, thank you, Lynn. Meaningful engagement. I've been doing meaningful engagement, I guess, for what I consider longer than SPORE PIHCI's been around. I am from the New Brunswick area. And in New Brunswick, we had a Del Med program that was attached to Dalhousie Medical from Nova Scotia. I started out mentoring med students, which I thoroughly enjoyed, being a guinea pig for these guys. I've been a patient since 1993, almost on a full-term basis, I guess, even since this past in 2020. Anyway, that's an old story. For meaningful engagement, we did some projects, a local project in New Brunswick, which was all patient-driven. I had vetted the patients that were going to be part of the group of panelists. We had the opportunity to give away grant money that wasn't ours, which was fun to do because it wasn't our money to give away. And we ended up having a great night. The patients did a great job on the panel. They did the scoring, they did the interviewing process, they got the guest speaker. It was so much patient-driven, in fact, that really the researchers were our supporters, but and guides, but they kind of stood back and let us go and see what took place. And it was a wonderful experience as far as meaningful. Lynn is right about communication. To me, you can't have no flat spots if I'm speaking to researchers or whoever, for patients to be meaningfully engaged or engaged, period. They'll just drop off. So you have to stay in communication with them to keep them fresh, keep them up to date. Even if there's nothing moving right now, to at least tell them that for sure. Uh, I don't personally, I like to start with engagement and with projects right from the beginning and continue right through the end. Everybody's different. All our patient partners, including all the ones that I sit on the Pan-Canadian Council with, that I forgot to mention that I'm part of. Uh, they are all doing this because they want to give back. Meaningful engagement for me is to give back for not my generation, or maybe not even the next, but the generation after that, like my granddaughters. I know I said that somewhere in the past, but I am a guy that values life and values time, and because I've had so much time taken away from me, that if I'm engaged in something, that it's meaningful to me, is the best way I can say that. If it didn't mean so much to me to move that the medical care system in our country a peg forward each time, then what am I doing it for? So, like I said, I'm one of the endangered species list. I'm on that list. So I like to make full value of my time. Meaningful engagement is what you make of it as a patient, in my mind, is as well, because if you don't take nothing out of it yourself, like what Lynn said, about learning something, each person should be able to learn something from each other. I like to learn at least something new once each day, if not more. And I also like to use humor to engage those patients as well. I'm currently working on a project in Manitoba, but I'm also doing one out of Quebec, hopefully, if the funding comes through, on some of the issues pertaining to COVID, for example, a couple of these projects. But I look forward to the future, and I look forward to any questions you have. I strictly speak from the heart. I know it scares them to death that I do that sometimes, but that is who I am. So my name is Roger Stoddard. I'm from province of New Brunswick, and I'm on the Pan-Canadian Patient Council. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Karina Prévost, and as you can hear, I'm from Quebec. I'm from Montreal originally, but now I live in the northern region called Saguenay, about 3 hours north of Montreal. I've basically been a patient partner my whole life due to a sickness called cystic fibrosis. And 6 years ago, I went through a double lung transplant. So you can imagine it's been quite a long journey. I've been in the medical system for about 45 years. So I really felt going through all those processes that I had something to give, something that I could share with the professionals. And within all those years, I found that only recently I started being heard. That all started with the patient partnership for me about in 2015, when one of my doctors offered me to be part of her research project, but as a patient partner, which was really pleasing to me. For me, meaningful engagement, I can talk from my personal experience also, because currently I'm working as a patient partner on 10 projects. I'm also working with the Ministry of Health on reviewing a trajectory, and I'm working with the University of Montreal on the mentorship and the teaching to the Faculty of Medicine. So I've experienced patient partnerships, quite a lot, and I really enjoy it. But there are some difficulties that we usually go through as what is the significance of a meaningful engagement from me or from the research team? I think it really starts with co-construction, first of all. That means that it usually works better when we have the possibility to start the process from scratch all together. Because whenever I ended up going on a project too late, I found that I couldn't express the eye of the patient quite as much as I would have liked to, because the process was already ongoing. So what you can offer is only a piece of bits and here and then, but not improving necessarily the question, the question from scratch. Then the whole working experience and process is not complete. So it's not the experience that you could have access to. I also find that meaningful engagement would be much better if we could find a way to measure what kind of difference the patients specifically bring to the table. Of course, I do understand and feel that we all understand there is quite a difference that is brought by us, by our presence. But we need to make a significance out of it. We need to be able to measure it correctly, because we are efficient and we do know what is needed from us, for us, because we are the ones, of course, you've heard that sentence many times. We are the ones living our lives with the sickness. We've been through hell, basically, most of us. Sickness, hospitalizations, opioids, you name it. We've all been through many things, but this experience could only be brought to us by the table. So I would really suggest that we build trust and we build communication really efficiently, so that all of us could benefit from the whole process of experiential knowledge and scientific knowledge. And I think that on a primary care basis, we could benefit a lot more still from all this, even though we've made a lot of progress. And I'm really proud to be part of this beautiful journey. Of course, if you have any questions for me afterwards, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Excellent, Karina. Thank you so much. Well, we have definitely succeeded in getting our cognitive fires stoked. And just a note to our virtual audience members, if any brilliant insights should strike you that you want to ask our panelists about, please don't feel like you have to wait till the end to pose those questions. Feel free to enter them in the Q&A box that the webinar format of Zoom conveniently provides us with, and we will respond to those questions at the appropriate time. Next, we have Joni, Empho, and Ghislain discussing their #1 priorities in patient-oriented research.
Well, good morning. And with my accent, you can see also that I am from Quebec. Actually, I'm in Kamouraska in Quebec. It's also 3 hours, but east-south of Montreal. Thank you for having me this morning. I am a patient partner for many years. I am also at the Pan-Canadian Council, at the Health Ministry, at the University of Montreal, and a lot of other places. I am also a co-founder of a caring community that I share with Dr. Antoine Boivin. I was born with 2 orphan diseases. I had 3 major cancer. I was kept in an induced palliative coma for 5 months and 28 days. And the fact that I was so often and for long periods of time in hospital, I started to be more and more involved in the well-being of my fellow patients. And this is what I've been doing for the longest time. Now you will know my age, but anyway, I do that for the last 50 years, so it gives you an idea. In 2016, I met at the University of Montreal in one of the classes that I was giving Dr. Boivin. And this is how the project started. I share with him my experiences with other patients, how I do accompany, help, and educate others. In 2017, together, we decided to start a research action project called the Caring Community. This project is the idea of a patient supported by a clinician. And from the very beginning, I was listened out with trust and respect. And those for me are part of the priority that we should have really in research. I am included in every step of the research. My point of view is always taken into account. I feel, quite frankly, like an equal with Dr. Boivin. Together, we share the same values. Our goals also are the same. In a nutshell, simply put, my priorities in a patient-oriented research are trust, respect, to be included from the very start, working in real co-construction to be inclusive, to have an impact, not only a voice, and finally, to be believed in and recognized in our experiential knowledge, not only a patient-oriented, but patient-led. I wish every patient, in fact, could have a Dr. Antoine Boivin to lead really a research action. I think that the project now is really not only in the region of Montreal, but it's been known now provincial and now also internationally. So starting from a very humble idea that a patient had, transferred to a doctor that was open mind and that took this idea and took the risk, quite frankly, to involve me from the very beginning at every step of this research, and now to see what it evolved. So I think this is an example that should be taken, quite frankly. It's a good example, and I hope really that there will be a lot more project research like this. Thank you very much, and I'll turn it now to Joni.
Thank you, Ghislaine. And I'm always inspired by hearing that story of what she started, because that truly is patient-led research and patient-centered research. And that is going to be my #1 priority, to highlight the importance of that. But in 3 minutes, I'm going to tell you 3 things. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and my perspective as a patient partner, because there's a lot of meanings to that word. I'm going to tell you quickly about a project that I'm involved in right now, and I would really like to hear people's opinion and feedback on it. And then I'm going to highlight what my #1 priority is for patient-oriented research. So my name is Joni Cranston, and I'm bringing you a patient partner perspective from the Rock, from Newfoundland and Labrador, the easternmost part of our country. I'm actually a physiotherapist, and I've lived and worked in this rural area for over 30 years. So of course I'm a patient. I've had a hip replacement and, normal life things, nothing as intense as many of the other people on this council have. And I've also then been a caregiver and been exposed to many different types of things. But I think the main role that I serve as a patient partner is bringing the voices of all my patients, my community, to the tables that I have the privilege to sit at, because all of those people can't be there, but I can bring their voices and I can say it in their words, so I can ensure that their voices are heard at a level. So I haven't had the opportunity to participate in a lot of research projects as a patient partner. I generally am the one that starts things. So I don't have that same experience, but I think another really important role of a patient partner is the voices that we bring to sit at these tables. I am on our provincial council. I'm on a provincial primary care council. And then I had the opportunity to sit on the task force that led to the creation of this council. So we have a chance to make an impact, to change things, and to influence the future of primary health care. So that's another really important role of patient partners, not only participate in research, but to bring other patients' voices forward and to participate on these big scale levels. So the project that I want to quickly tell you about, because I'm keeping an eye on my time, I guess we got 2 or 3 minutes, 3 minutes maybe, I might take 4, is a project that I'm starting on the Northern Peninsula of Newfoundland. It's called the Great Northern Peninsula Community Place. I was providing services there, but I didn't have an adequate clinic space, and patients were having to travel 2 to 4 hours to see me for physio. So a group of people got together at a community meeting. We decided to buy a heritage building, which we're going to buy on Thursday, and we decided that we could create this community place where different practitioners could offer healthcare services to the whole area, and also address some of the determinants of health, maybe in terms of food security and access to fresh, healthy local food. So this project has taken off in so many directions, with community involvement, municipal involvement. We've got corporate sponsors, community partners. My main secret weapon is we have a whole research collective that's been formed around this with people from School of Nursing and geographers and food security researchers. This research collective is supporting this group of community people to create this project and study it right from the beginning along the way. We've already attracted social enterprise research dollars. We're already doing research on philanthropy in rural communities. We've done looking at national and international scans of other models. So we're already integrating research into it. We've got partners, we've got research. We're actually going to create this little mini integrated healthcare system on the peninsula. So to me, this type of project is really where we want to be, not only patient-oriented research. I think to me, the future of this is patient-centered, patient-led, co-created research, because patients and clinicians and researchers working together, that is gold. And that's what can actually really change the system. That's where we can make an impact, and we can measure it as we go. So my number one priority is to find a way to fund more of this type of project, co-created, patient-led, working directly with clinicians and researchers, and to have truly patient-led research as opposed to patient-oriented research. Thank you very much. Over to Empo to talk about the future. Ghislaine was the past, I'm the present. Empo is the future.
Thank you, John. Okay, my name is Empo Begin, and I'm the patient partner for the Manitoba Network. For me, I am relatively new to the patient-oriented research. I started my journey about a little over 3 years ago. I had no idea about patient-oriented research, or even health research in general, what that was. So I saw this advertisement online about joining an executive council as a patient public partner. So I applied and had an interview, and I got invited to be a patient partner for the Manitoba Sport Unit in the Executive Council. So at the time, the unit was also forming the Patient Advisory Council. So I also got invited to participate in that group as well. Over time, the group has evolved. It's now called the Patient and Public Engagement Collaborative Partnership. It's a mouthful, but I think it kind of represents what the group is trying to accomplish in patient engagement. Kind of started as a patient as an advisory group, but then I know part of the group was to kind of have that dialogue, like what is patient engagement? What does it mean? So, I mean, patient engagement, there's different level of engagement for the patients, but at the time we didn't really see seeing us as being an advisory group being meaningful engagement, because I mean, yeah, we can provide feedback to the researchers, but they're not obligated to use that feedback. So that kind of wanted to kind of have a collaborative partnership with the researchers for patients really to make that meaningful impact. So that's kind of how we ended up changing the name, and also be able to, any project that we participate in, to kind of take that collaborative approach in terms of patient engagement. So this approach, collaborative approach, kind of has demonstrated in some of the projects that I've participated in. So the most recent one is called developing the Manitoba patient-reported measures strategy. So all the patient partners in that project were involved in the development of the strategy, and also we also co-developed the partnership and engagement section of the strategy, and also some engagement resources that are available for the public to use. Actually, tomorrow the project lead and I will be doing presentation on this project with the Saskatchewan Spore Unit. So I joined this council a few months before the pandemic hit. So at the time, I think that's when the council started to work on their research priorities. I think most of the members here have mentioned how the council has evolved over time. So I think for me, for the future going forward, I would like to kind of see the council that's kind of a little more inclusive in terms of the patient representation, and also kind of the patient experiences, because I think to have that diverse group and bring those different perspectives to the council, and we can apply that diverse perspective also into our research, patient-oriented research. So kind of that's kind of what I see, patient-oriented research being more inclusive going forward. Yeah, I think I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ampo. Lots and lots of thought-provoking insights from our panelists so far today, but since we are waiting for at least one of our key speakers to rejoin us, I think I will take some moderator's privilege and ask our fearless leaders, Jill and Jamie, maybe to use this time to tell us a little bit about the NAPCRAG submissions that have been made by our group. If you will, Jill and or Jamie, please tell us, what is NAPCRAG and what exactly were those submissions?
Thanks, Kent. And yeah, always happy to jump in. So I am the executive director of the Network Coordinating Office, and that's very kind of Kent to refer to me as a fearless leader. It's more like chief cat herder, but thanks for that, Kent. I also have a second hat, and by the way, the person that is the real driving force behind all this work is actually my right-hand person, who is Jamie Demore, who I've had the pleasure of working with for many years and hope to continue working with for many more. So I will shortly turn it over to him. One of my other hats is I'm the president of NAPCRAG, which is the North American Primary Care Research Group. And we're really about promoting research in primary care, which as you can see, that aligns well with what we're hearing about today. And I was very happy. One of the silver linings of the pandemic was the ability for any of our patient council members who wanted to be able to attend NAPCRG last year. There's a very active patient engagement community, PACE, at NAPCRG. So they were able to attend the pre-conference and see how the conference worked. So because, thank you, COVID-19, we are virtual again this year instead of being in Quebec City. We really wanted to help the Patient Advisory Council be an active part of NAPCRG. So they now have 2 abstracts in for review, which the patient partners will be presenting, and Jamie and I each helped shepherd those through. One was the work the council did on creating a snapshot of what is a primary care patient partner. And you're going to find out yourself during this seminar here, but it really was fascinating to me. We did a survey and filled it out and used it to summarize the breadth of experience, both in healthcare, in their professional lives, and in their research activities is fantastic. And this is why one of our patient council members, Lynn, who is transitioning now into a different role, but is actually a member of the OECD Paris project, which is patient reported outcomes and patient reported experience measure. She's on their advisory council, which is fantastic. So I'm not going to give away a lot more because I'm hoping everybody will register for NAPCRG and come virtually and hear about what this snapshot is of what it's like to be a primary care patient partner. And little shameless plug here, thanks to Kent's help and Nick and Jamie's work and this wonderful council, we also have a podcast that tells you a little bit more about that. You can find on our website, and Nick will put the thing there. So that's what the snapshot was that will be presented at NAPCRG. I believe, I want to say Brenda's leading that one. Did I get that correct? You'll be presenting that? Okay, and so I'm now going to turn it over to Jamie to talk about the other abstract that went in on completed work done by the council.
Thanks, Jillian. Yes, hi, my name is Jamie Demore, and I am the research manager for the network coordinating office of the PIHCI network. I have had the pleasure to work with the patient council for more than 2 years, and it's been an incredibly humbling experience. I have learned a great deal about patient engagement, but I've also really learned the value that the patient partner can bring through their experiences, expertise, and knowledge. The NAPCRG abstract that we submitted regarding was one of their most ambitious initiatives, I believe. And the objective was to establish patient partner priorities in the Canadian primary healthcare context. And this was really to ensure that their voices were being heard. Through consensus building and prioritization voting, the patient council developed and presented a draft of their research priorities to the PIHCI Network Leadership Council. The Network Leadership Council is essentially the board of directors of the PIHCI network. Once they received feedback from the Network Leadership Council, the patient council decided that the process was missing from the document. The process is essentially how did they propose that these research priorities were going to be accomplished. So subsequently, we all used the SMART goal framework to convert these research priorities into more smarter goals. So S for specific, M for more measurable, A for achievable, R for more relevant, and T for more time bound. And through this, we realized that some of the initial 11 items that they proposed, that they provided to the Network Leadership Council were were actually not only research priorities, but also strategic operating goals. And some of the finalized research priorities were concerning patients' access to data, integrated health teams, patient-initiated collaborative research, virtual care, etc. And these, as mentioned, these initial research priorities eventually evolved into a set of principles, strategic operating goals, and finalized research priorities. I would like to just wrap up my portion of this. There's one main takeaway, I believe, from this activity. There's one main recommendation that the Patient Council also is proposing, and there's one kind of future step that came out of this activity. The main takeaway, I believe, is that the patient partner input is crucial during research priority setting activities. And the main recommendation is from the Patient Council is to create a working group that will be used for on a pan-Canadian basis to essentially convert. I think that the product that they came up with is a detailed beginning point, but now we really need input from all of the stakeholder groups. That includes policy leads, clinical leads, researchers, network managers, and of course, patient partners. And this activity should really essentially be done on an annual basis on a pan-Canadian level. And the one future step, they would like to convert the research objectives that they came up with into a more detailed operating plan. For example, one of their goals is to ensure that all patient partners are compensated appropriately. And they will give clear steps as to how they propose this should be done. So that's about it from my perspective. I guess it's back over to Kent. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Jamie. And again, since time is on our side, I wonder if I might ask you and Jill, and you touched on it a little bit in the beginning of your presentation there, Jamie, but I wonder if I might ask you to sort of think in a reminiscence sort of way in terms of your best learning experiences or top things that you have learned the most from having spent the last few years or so with us. If you want to just take a couple of minutes to share some reflections.
Thanks, Kent. I'll go first, let Jamie collect his thoughts on that. As he said, we joined the network 2 years ago. I had done partnered research before. I think the thing I learned, as I said before, and this is not an exaggeration, every single instance I engage with a patient partner for whatever it is, I learn something new. And I think what I've learned is the biggest thing I've learned that I underestimated is the depth of experience that patient partners bring, the unusual lens their professional lives lend to their engagement in this process, and their incredible generosity in sharing their time and resources and experience with those of us who do this for a living. And also, I think the thing that struck me the most and why I am 100% an advocate for patient-partnered research and real partnership, not tokenism, not like Mafo says, where there's no obligation to listen to the patient partner, but real partnership is the unbelievable resilience of our patient partners. When COVID hit, and for our patient partners, it was especially frightening and anxious because I was just tragically realized that you are all the most susceptible group and that this was a very, very real and frightening time, was just everything you've been through and you still want to give. So for me, it sets a bar for behavior and professionalism and meaningful contributions that I will be trying to live up to for the rest of my professional life. And I thank you because I think that's a real gift you've given me. Jamie.
How do you follow that now, Jamie? Thank you so much, Jill.
I don't think I can follow it. No, you know, the only thing I think she really summarized exactly, you know, how I feel as well. I think that one thing I would like to just say is I do think we are scratching the surface potentially in terms of tapping into that knowledge, expertise, and experiences. And I think some of the other patient partners alluded to this, is that we could do even a better job. We could tap into that, all of that. And I think we are still in the process of figuring out exactly to what extent and what that looks like.
Absolutely. I have a note sent to me by my colleague that letting me know that Alana has something to say. So Alana, if you would like to unmute yourself and give us your thoughts, please. Yes, no, maybe so.
While Alana's sorting her mute and video out, I just wanted to give a very, very practical example of that. I gave a presentation on our OECD project that's looking at those patient-reported outcome measures and experiences. And the patient partner on that presentation for the Réseau 1, which is our Quebec PIHCI site annual research day, mentioned to me that he's done a lot of these surveys, but he rarely hears back on the results and the outcomes. And I said to him, well, Sylvain, I'm going to bring that up to the OECD. And I was at an OECD meeting on Monday. I won't tell you what time in the morning because it was outrageous. And they have a little extra money in their budget. And they're like, well, ideas for this. And I said, well, our patient partner said that he's participated in a lot of this. There is a response burden, and he'd really like to know the results. And I said, I don't think the OECD reports are patient or public friendly. And maybe we should spend some of this money on getting back to the patients that completed the project. And we got a lot of countries' endorsement, and OECD is actually going to take up that idea that came from Sylvain. So listening to your patient partners and having them express their views it makes a real difference to how things are done. So this is 36 countries across the world that are going to do things a bit differently because of a patient partner in Quebec.
Well, and that is a stellar example of the potentially global reach of patient partnership and of interdisciplinary collaboration. Because I know for me, no matter what any of our given roles is on a multidisciplinary research team, whether that's as a patient, as a researcher, as a clinician, as a policymaker, closing the loop is always so important, and getting that impact into the areas where it can benefit patients most is the point of all health research. And so amen to that is what I say. And let's have some more of that in phase 2, please. Ray is the one that I have since now been told would like to offer us some sort of insight or introduction. Ray, if you have something to say, please go ahead.
Thank you, Kent. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I'll just take my, I don't know, I can't see there. There's lots of sun rays coming through my window, so I apologize for the picture. Anyways, good morning, everybody. This is the first time I've had an opportunity. Thank you very much to Brenda for inviting me to sit and share some of my thoughts on this important initiative. My experience background is I'm from Saskatchewan, originally from Buffalo Narrows, Saskatchewan, a small Métis village, about 5 hours north of Saskatoon. I live and reside now and work in Saskatoon with the Métis Addictions Council. So you can see the logo behind me. We're working with high-risk and vulnerable populations on addictions issues and mental health issues. So anyways, I just want to basically say I really enjoyed the conversation on primary care priorities, the topics about research. I guess basically the last comment that was made by James Demore, research manager, was talking about just scratching the surface on moving forward issues and what we've done to date. And that's where I'll begin my conversation. I think we are just scratching the surface in terms of engaging Indigenous people. Thank you very much for acknowledging Dr. Jillian Bartlett on the homeland of the Métis and the acknowledgement on the front side of the meeting. Aside from the acknowledgement, I believe that there's got to be a deeper vetting of Indigenous voices on these pan-Canadian, particularly under research. For one reason, research provides evidence-based informed decisions. It always has, right from CIHR. I just served on getting the helping with picking a new lead for the primary the principal investigator. And I guess that'll come through sometime today or something, but we selected for picking two a primary investigator, and I went through that process with them to help that take place. However, back to the point of research, evidence-based informed decisions is critical. We need the evidence to make the decisions, but the evidence is required for a reason. Here in Saskatchewan, I've got about over 10 years experience working on why do we have to make these decisions, and patients are getting tired of being surveyed to death. And I think it's important, I think Jillian talked about that, is that closing the loop is what's been said by Kent. And those are important aspects, is that we don't want our surveys and our voices to be collecting dust on some shelf somewhere, and we want them to go into policy. So evidence-informed decisions to change the public policy to engage patients more. It's not one individual that does it across Canada. It's not one professional. It's not one patient. It's a collective will. And whoever changes policy about nothing about you without you, I thank them. And that'll create meaningful change. And that's the only way to proceed. So I'll just leave it at that. I'm really pleased to be here. And if there's any way I can help with going beyond scratching the surface, I look forward to it. Merci.
Thank you so much, Ray, for those timely, impromptu insights. And I think it's just another reminder that we are the FUBU crew, for us, by us, of patient-oriented research and all of the endeavors that we're attempting to undertake to improve primary care and beyond. Brenda, I'm told that I should throw to you next.
Thanks, Kent. I really just have to begin by saying how humbled I am to be a part of the Pan-Canadian PIHCI Council, and the diversity and the personalities that we each have, and how we approach our work as patient partners is it's crazy, but it works, and we like that. Just a little bit about myself. I'm from Saskatchewan, raised way north. I'm way south. I have vision impairment, and that impacts how I see and do and live my life. And so I don't see detail or small print, but what I do see is the big picture, big content. And that is basically what I wanted to speak to today. And much of what I have to say has probably already been said, but I need to say this. We have to start with COVID-19 and the opportunities it has given us as patient partners. First and foremost, the access to virtual connections has enabled patient partners to participate in online opportunities, to attend virtual conferences, and to participate in patient-oriented research. These learning opportunities have taken health literacy to a whole new level. And as patients become more informed, their confidence increases, as does their ability to meaningfully engage and to be critical thinkers throughout the process. It really does set the stage for health system transformation, with all stakeholders coming to the table together in equity. I have participated in a lot of research projects throughout the COVID experience. And question 3 for me was to speak a little bit about what it's like to co-lead. And I have to really start by saying half the time, I don't know if I'm excited or if I'm terrified. I really don't. I just wing it most of the time. But I've had experience with data literacy, with chronic conditions, with mental health, with COVID and the rollout. And I even now have a CCV, and I'm actively engaged in the promoting of the Paris project in Saskatchewan, not only inside the health authority, but engaging with our external partners, because truly together we are better. And if we don't start including clinicians, providers, and communities, patient activation at the front line, we really are not going to get to that place where we can all feel good about moving our healthcare system forward. Together, the project, I keep this in mind as I share with you my current project in which I'm the co-lead. And this project is about aftercare for people who have experienced harm in healthcare. I'm working with an academic researcher from the university with a background in psychology. And the outcome of our project will be online self-directed learning tool. 3 things I bring to this project will impact the research outcomes. The first is my experience of navigating through the healthcare system on a regular basis, because I have at least 6 of those non-communicable conditions, and I don't like them to be referred to as chronic conditions. I think that's derogatory, and just because I happen to have 6, I shouldn't say that, but that is what I believe. It can be challenging, complex, and ever-changing in terms of accessing care. You got to be on your toes every minute just to be in the moment with what to go, who to see, where to go, and how to get there. The second thing that I bring is I have experience of trauma while receiving care. And I know the triggers, and I carry with me always, am I going to be safe? And am I safe? And will I be safe? And lastly, my experience as a patient partner has given me in-depth understanding of what is integrated primary care? What is a learning health system? And how does all of this relate to evidence-based best practices at the point of care? And how do they all come together to make my experience, the patient experience, be the best that it can be, embedded in what is people-centered care, people-driven health systems? That's where we need to get to. I really have been able to make connections and to build relationships, and to help my research team understand the patient experience, not just at the point of care in the healthcare setting, but while at the same time understanding the healthcare provider perspective. In this project, I've suggested that we bring on board a healthcare provider from patient safety to co-design the content of the learning tool. We've also set up 3 different focus groups where we're not having them come in to see us. We're going to go out into the community and meet with them out there, because Saskatchewan is almost to the point where we're open for business with the COVID experience. And I would like to summarize all of this by saying that in order to shift the culture of the healthcare system, providers need to be educated, the patient needs to be engaged, and the system itself must be adaptive and flexible. Patient-oriented research, co-led by patients, will pave the way to get us there. And I'll stop there. Over to you, Chanel.
Thank you, Brenda. And thank you for this opportunity to share my experience. So I want to share my personal experience as a citizen scientist. I was a co-lead with my wife in investigating the efficacy of a targeted cancer drug for brain metastasis. And the backstory is my wife had stage 4 lung cancer, and her third line of therapy was a newly approved drug. Now, the Cancer Center gave us an option of whole brain radiation. However, we knew patients in other countries on this new cancer therapy had a response for brain metastasis, but there's no data that was available from the pharmaceutical company or oncologist. And so we decided to become citizen scientists. We collected MRI reports from a community of lung cancer patients across the world. We analyzed the data, and we understood the efficacy and side effects of this new medication in this setting. The data concluded that the drug responded to brain metastasis. We presented our findings to our oncologist and asked to delay a whole brain radiation. Within 1 month on this drug, she had a complete response to the brain metastasis, and in 2 months, we were in Bali. She lived another 18 months with no neurological issues from her cancer. So by being a citizen scientist, we were able to prove the efficacy of a cancer therapy for brain metastasis 2 years before publication. Now, this crowdsourcing methodology was published in the Journal of Thoracic Oncology. I've also presented this methodology at the Canadian eHealth conference just this past March. And so where has this experience and lived experience taken me? The experience demonstrates the importance of acquiring and tracking your own health data and also finding a community. So my background is in computer engineering. And in 2015, I started a social enterprise called Zamplo Health. And we provide a digital health app for people across Canada to record their health data, create a virtual binder to record their experience and analyze and share their data. It was launched in 2020 in partnership with the Alberta Cancer Foundation. And we have 10 patient organizations who have partnered with us as well. In July 2021, we're launching Zamplo Community for people to securely and privately connect with peers facing the same health challenge. Or we call it LinkedIn for patients. Now, in parallel, I'm also a patient advocate. In 2019, I was asked to chair a working group to create a declaration of patient health data rights and obligations for Canada. We don't have a uniform, consistent position on how our data is being used, where it's being used, what rights we have. Europe and the United States are ahead of us in this respect. And so this working group was formed in the 2019 Patient Redefining Healthcare Summit. And we created this declaration. The purpose is to create awareness for people's rights to their health data and also obligations by users of the data, and also obligations from the general public, from patients, that some of your data has to be given in order for safety, for safety and also advancement of care. The declaration is being circulated to patient organizations and patients across Canada for endorsement. And I appreciate if anybody's interested, please contact me and I could send you a copy. Thank you very much.
Excellent, Chanel. Thank you so much. I am just stunned by the diversity of undertakings that our cross Canada, pan-Canadian, as we like to say, group likes to get involved in and has had the opportunity to get involved in and has been given a chance to make such meaningful contributions to. Even in my own involvement in this group, I haven't until now gotten as full a picture of just really the remarkable things that all of us are doing. Not to toot our own horns, but beep, beep. So is what I have to say about that. In the time that we have left, this is your opportunity to ask questions of the panelists, and we have a couple of those that have been posed into the Q&A box. First, just generally, and this I guess goes out to whoever would like to answer first of our panelists. An anonymous attendee says, "Hi everyone, I'm really enjoying the presentation and all of your kind words. How can a person contribute to your amazing work?" So what is the advice that you would give to anyone that is looking to get involved in patient-oriented research or this kind of advocacy for improving primary care in their local area?
Well, maybe I could start off. I think there's a wealth of information on each of the network's websites across Canada. So depending on what province you're in, you might want to check out the your province's primary and integrated healthcare network website. And that was one way that I found I could get involved, was opportunities that were published there and opportunities to join the group of patient partners that would be notified when projects came up or opportunities came up to be involved in the network itself or in the research. Or so that would be one suggestion, depending on the province, is to check out that website.
Excellent, Lynn. Thank you so much. Does anybody else have any other thoughts there? I was going to suggest websites.
I could add something if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
I
Karina,
wanted
please.
to invite the person, if the person wants to write to us and tell us where they're located, maybe we could help them find a path through the system and get to the Bureau of the Patient Partnership of their provinces.
Sure. I would encourage that person to identify themselves in the chat, and then we'll have an opportunity to maybe direct you to the most relevant resources in your area. In the meantime, while you're pulling all that together, I'll go to the second question that we have here in the Q&A box specifically. Harvey was particularly interested in the project that Brenda was just mentioning about harm experienced while accessing healthcare, and would love to be able to get more information on this project and maybe how to get more connected if that's possible. So Brenda, what would you suggest to anyone else who's looking to pursue and maybe contribute to the area of clinical trauma?
Thanks, Kent. Well, first of all, I would say that there are many trendy areas of research going on within the healthcare setting and within the system itself. And one of the newer innovative research topics is trauma and the unintentional or intended consequences of harm. And for many patients, we only have one place to go to get our health care. We can't shop around. And so trauma-informed care, trauma-informed research is becoming a big topic in each of the provinces. And so wherever you live, I would start with your local health system and ask them in patient safety what it is, and do they know of any research going on in or around trauma-informed care. I know that in addition to the provinces in individual healthcare system, there is also a lot of national research going on in the area of trauma-informed care. And Kent, I know that BC has one of the best programs, research projects on the go. I don't know a whole bunch about it, but I know that the BC SPORE support unit is really on top of what is trauma-informed care, and how does that impact the patient? How does that impact the provider? How does that impact the citizen, the setting itself? And so other than saying just briefly that there's lots of this research going on, And our particular tool, we wanted to step it outside of the healthcare system, because for many trauma patients, it's very hard to come back into the healthcare system. So they need that resilience, that ability to have self-care prior to, and they need some tools on what it means to get back into the healthcare system. And I know, again, from my personal experience, that each and every time, and I can't avoid the healthcare system, it's there, I use it, but I'm always aware of what my safety is and how I'm in the moment feeling about that. So I'll stop there, Kent.
Thanks so much, Brenda. I am personally proud to have been among the founding forces responsible for bringing the British Columbia version of the support unit to life back in the summer of 2016, before there was officially a support unit to support. And I've been just amazed again, and so engaged and so proud of the work that we're continuing to do there, and we'll have the opportunity to do so in phase 2. I see a brand new question has popped in to the Q&A, and I'm just reading madly. You. One question from a researcher I got concerned about is the issue that Ray raised about who is at the table speaking for the patients. This connects to the topic of trauma-informed care too, given that trust is crucial. How is the PIHCIN board, this questioner says, engaging with this challenge? That's very interesting. Specifically about this, patient-informed trauma type of question before today.
So do you want me to answer on behalf of the board, and then maybe some of the patient partners can jump in about who's at the table?
Sure, go ahead, Jill.
Okay, so this is actually a really important question. And when I did the podcast with the patient partners, which is really about, what's their experience been like? Why did they do this? What are they proud of? One of the things that a few of our patient partners has mentioned is the difference between representation and advocacy. Almost all of them, I would say, have been advocates, are advocates, or have been advocates at different times for patients. And certainly when it comes to trust and harm, that is really important. And advocates for care, for coordination of care, for all sorts of things. Representation is a very different thing. Representation is how you add the patient voice or the patient perspective. So it may not necessarily be about your story. And one of the things I've been impressed with our patient partner council is they clearly make that distinction, and they understand that they're there to provide sort of another perspective to where our perspective comes from as researchers, where we can become rigid due to our training and expertise. So it's sort of to shine a light on what we're doing to ensure there is a patient voice there and there is a patient representation. I think the notion that a patient partner can represent anyone or anything is not correct. And I think Ray would certainly have some things to say about that, because for so long, many voices from patients, what we call underrepresented minorities or other, for whatever reason, have not been present. And that includes very much so the Indigenous representation. So I think from the board's perspective, we are very, very keen for this extra perspective. What that extra is, I think varies from situation to situation, and it is a learning journey together that we all take on. So we don't expect exact representation. We just want that ability to say, hey, have you thought about this? Or that makes no sense to me as a patient partner. Or so that they're there is to make our research better and more reflective. And I think this is a learning process that, as long as you're open to learning and changing your views and changing your mind and changing your ideas and approaches, it works. But it has to be a real partnership. And now I'm going to put it back to the patients to maybe speak on that.
Now, Kent, it's Ray.
Yes, go ahead, Ray.
Since my name was mentioned in the email, thank you very much for the question and the comments, and thank you, Jillian, for the for your comments about that. One of the speakers spoke about continuous involvement for patients from cradle to grave or A to Z or whatever it is in whatever we're doing. That's so critical on the communications. I totally agree. We're just not an add-on. We're not a special, a specialty. We are continuous involved in entire projects from A to Z. That's one point. The issue of trust is critical. Let's say, for example, my specialty would be, how do we engage Pan-Canadian at the same time respect our self-determination values as Métis and First Nations and Inuit peoples in Canada? How do we get involved in research while retaining our identity? That's critical to the new way of doing business. I do believe what Jillian said is that we have to, we are underrepresented, and we have been underrepresented, and but we have to have authentic voice. We have to have authentic engagement, and we have to have action. The Truth and Reconciliation 94 calls is one of the areas that we can get more engaged in, but particularly on representation on in other areas, missing and murdered women's numerous calls. There's UNDRIP, those calls. There's numerous ways we can educate the general public about bringing authentic voice and bring us some systemic change. I think Brenda referenced change, and there is a systemic problem in Canada, as we know this week. A history of systemic racism in Canada, and those are the issues that add to mistrust, add to a sense of fear and anxiety when you're going to the table. Is my voice is going to be used for the purposes of building another colonial system? So a health system in Canada on primary care. Those are the fears that Indigenous people come around the table with. But we are Canadian, we are a team, and we actually want to contribute. But certainly there's the issue of mistrust coming to the table, and how we get rid of those fears is something that we can work together as a team to address. So if there's a governance model that engages us and brings us to the table in a way we can retain our own identity and talk about our values of self-determination on a land base, those are things that while we still participate in a Pan-Canadian research model like PIHCI 2. Thank you.
Excellent, Ray. Thank you. Thank you so much. Since we have a few extra minutes here towards the end, as we're just getting ready to wrap up before we give Jill the final floor to bring us to a close, what I wonder is sort of maybe building off of some of what Ray said about about meaningful engagement, and it sort of reminded me of one of the key mantras, that we have, the idea of nothing about us without us, in addition to sort of a play off of that, that I have used at a lot of other tables to remind people about the idea of no consultation without implementation. And I wonder if going into the prospect of phase 2 of our network, even though we don't know for sure exactly what that will look like, does anyone have anything specific to offer as kind of a final summary thought about their hopes for the best of phase 2? See, I've put you all on the spot now. Brenda, you helped us put this whole thing together today. Do you have something to offer on the best of hopes for phase 2?
Yes, I do. And it's all right there in the poster. We are innovators. We are leaders. We are influencers. And we impact, we interface. And 2.0 is how we will accomplish that. And I think to say that the PIHCI Patient Council has been very active in providing submissions to the process of the next iteration. We do our homework. Jill always said it best. You know, she's never worked with patients the way that always knows that patients come prepared. And we do come prepared, and we do come with openness and transparency. And we come not to lead a conversation, but to start a conversation. We don't need to know where the conversation is going. We just need to know that we can have one. And I think that's how we feel about 2.0. Is there anybody else on the team that would think that or feel differently?
I think that was an excellent start.
I agree that we can sort of make it up as we go along. Research is about asking questions and finding answers. So let's ask the question of what can 2.0 look like, and how can we have more patient-centered research included, and let's see what the impact is on the health system.
Yes, indeed. Karina, I see you put your camera on. Does that mean you have something to offer?
I do agree with Brenda. I think it's a great perspective.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. On all those notes, Jill, I think I'll come back to you to kind of wrap us up, to close the day, to close the morning, close the afternoon, depending on which part of the country that we are participating from. Jill, what did you have to offer us in closing today?
Thanks. Actually, I have a little preview. Anik Baudry, who is our research coordinator and a phenomenal source of support for us, has actually put together a little promotional clip for the podcast, and we'd like to share that, and then I will wrap up the session. So Anik, are you ready to? Here we go.
I think that healthcare only works when we're prepared to care about problems that we don't have. Never be afraid to contribute all the professional expertise that you can, but just make sure that your patient experience is always also left in.
I dream big and I want more. Health system change and transformation means for me in bringing humanity and compassion and caring into all that we do in the healthcare system.
Your life is not done now. Get involved, make a difference. It will change your life. It'll make your life better. People like to be around positive people. You have the potential and the talent that you don't even realize that can make a difference in healthcare.
I think it's really worth it to researchers to have patient partners involved, not just because you have to, but because your research will be better for it.
Je fais partie d'une équipe où je peux m'exprimer, poser des questions et échanger des idées. On a tous le même but, c'est de s'assurer que la recherche bénéficie aux patients. Les patients partenaires sont importants parce qu'on tous notre vie avec la maladie. On sait comment on ressent la maladie.
Wow, I think that sums it up very nicely.
And I want to thank Nick. She took that on, did it, and did a phenomenal job. So hopefully we'll have, as we finish up our podcast and interview our remaining council members, we'll have a very nice promotion of why patient-partnered research is so amazing. So I'd like to thank everybody for attending today. I realize we are all getting a bit Zoom exhausted. So this session will be recorded and available on the website. We have a final learning series session in phase 1 of PIHCIN, and that is coming up. It'll be posted in the chat, but I believe it's June 27th or July 27th. I will figure it out, or Nick will correct me. July 27th. It is July 27th at this time, and we are going to be having some presentation of work done by network researchers on COVID-19, but what we'll also have is 3 patient partners who are long COVID survivors. So they're going to add their perspective to an incredibly timely topic in the next presentation. I would like to acknowledge that PIHCIN is a partner funded network. So in addition to the Canadian Institutes for Health Research, which is our primary source of funding for the network, we have matched fundings from many different partners who have made this possible across Canada. So I'd like to thank all of those funders, thank our amazing council, and our ongoing people who are attending these seminar series. And please, you will be sent a survey afterwards. Please complete it. It helps us to meet the needs of people who are interested in learning more about primary care research and partnered primary care research. The next session in the chat, you can register for it or look for announcements or go to our website. They're all excellent sources of information and ways to get involved, as well as registering for the learning series. So with that, I will thank our patient council members who have been part of this. Thank you, Jamie, and thank you, Nick, for helping to make this happen. And I will just stay on for a minute or two in case you want to catch any of that information in the chat. But I wish everybody a wonderful day. And I hope that with the increasing vaccination rates, we will soon be able to travel a little more freely. Although, as Brenda's pointed out, don't forget that technology enables a lot of people to participate in ways they may not have been before. So I hope that is something we will keep as we move forward. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.